I wish I could hold you up like this, but I don't have a tripod, so you're gonna have to... I don't like this setup. Should I? There's nothing to hold you at the back. Would you like something to hold you at the back? Okay, wait, no jokes. I don't know. I kind of like the sun, but I'm also not wearing sunscreen. Tachomwa. And the way I want to tell the story yellow, it'll discombobulate you, bitch. Let me see where else is up. There's no railings. Kind of scared me. I'm afraid of heights. I'm on see what story next time. Let me look for a better setup. It's me again. I'm back. I found a spot. I hope this is okay for you. Is it okay for you? It's okay with me. That's all that matters. This year, I'm actually choosing myself. This year, I don't want to hear about anybody else's needs in my life. Like, I quite literally do not care. I do not want to hear it. I am focusing on myself. I'm not even playing games. Like, look at me right now. Look at me. Do I look like my hands are shaking to you? That's what I thought.
Nothing makes me scared. Do you see my hands? Do they look like they're shaking to you? No.
Okay. This year, walai, I'm focusing on myself. I'm checking myself out. I'm also using like the front camera. It is life. It is the way that it is. It's so hot in here. I need something to... Oh, that's not something I could use. This is perfect. Anyway, so guys, today's story time is so weird. It's so weird. So this story starts with a man. Today's story, they've started mowing the lawn. Yes, the door is open. It is. It's open.
Oh, okay. I'm leaving. Bye. Hey, you look cute.
Bye. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. See ya. If you're the one who's mowing the lawn while I'm here trying to give a story time, this is okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was overreacting on this. My bad. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nyambuzi, only because I'm the GOAT. Today's story is messed up. Messed. It starts with this man talking about his wife and he's berating her. He's like, she's an ordinary woman of ordinary means, and that's what I need in my life at the moment. So he says his whole life has always been so calculated, and him marrying a beautiful girl, an enchanted girl from a family of able means would come and basically ruin his plans for his life. So he needed to choose a plain Jane kind of girl, you know? And that's why I chose her. Otherwise, these other girls would come and disrupt my very calculated means of life. Sorry. Can you see me better now? I just showered, so my breath smells like, I don't know, daisies, Colgate daisies, Colgate roses, Colgate daffodils. This man had was talking, and how he was talking about his wife was just so disturbing. You know, he mentioned how he chose her because of how plain she looked and how plain she presented herself to be, and that he would never expect her to want more in life apart from what she already had, you know, and what he could offer. So he chose his wife based off of his own feelings of inadequacy, or basically mid-levelness. That's what I would go with. He chose his wife because he said that if he chose a girl of bigger means, larger means, from a family that actually loved her and chose her and showed up for her, or a conventionally beautiful and attractive woman, excuse me, damn, she would come into his life to ruin the plans he had for himself. So right from the jump, he knew that he just wanted this plain girl because of her plainness and how she, basically because of her lackluster. There was just nothing special about her. And that's a man talking about his wife. And he was saying that in comparison to his own life and how he had lived it, he went to schools that could sustain how mediocre and substandard he was. He went to a university where he could get a scholarship that would just be enough to sustain his ordinary means. So when he chose this girl, he was like, okay, perfect. This girl will not come and discombobulate my plans, basically. And he was sounding very proud while he was talking about her like that. Like, are you being... All I can do right now is pray for myself. Jesus, keep niggas like this away from me, please. Please. Amen. So when the wife started to act a little strange, he was so taken aback. He was like, what the hell is this? This was not part of my plan. This is not what I had in plan for myself. What happened was he woke up one day and the bed was empty beside him. Like the bed that he was in was empty on his bedside. On his side. Basically, where his wife was supposed to be, she wasn't there. God damn. That sentence took forever to come out. So he gets up and he goes to the living room. He's looking for her, only to find her standing in the kitchen facing the fridge. And when he was looking at her from like a little corner, so he couldn't properly see what she was doing, but she was just stood and facing the fridge. So when he moved a little closer, he realized that the whole kitchen floor was full of nyama, like beef, pork, everything, every meat that they had, chicken, every meat that they had in the freezer. And they used to stock up for long periods of time, so they had a lot of meat. That's what she said. Yeah, that's what she said. That's exactly what she said. They had a lot of meat. And so the man, let's give him a name. His name is Mike. Mike was like, what the hell? Girl, have you completely lost your mind? She'd put some meat in little jars, and then it was like so much, because this is like a foreign land, so they have stocked up their fridge a lot. They have nyama upon nyama upon nyama. And she'd put all of that in little jars. Like they had fish, chicken, beef, pork, all of that in little jars. And they were all over the kitchen floor. And he was like, okay, honey, ma'am, girl, what's going on? What's happening here? And she was like, we're getting rid of this whole thing. I don't want to eat meat anymore. We will not be eating meat anymore. And the man was like clearly upset, because he's like, have you completely lost your mind? He's a meat lover. He's not a vegetarian. So he was so confused. He was like, what's going on here? And that was just the first day of when she decided that she just didn't want meat in her life anymore. And he asked her what led her to making this decision. And she was like, she had a dream. She didn't really expound on the dream the first time she was asked, but like later on, her husband was now like, please, I miss my meat. That's what she said. Please, that's what she said. Demons are so deeply engraved in my being that I have to actively choose not to say. Let me wear my serious glasses on. I need to stop making jokes. Is this a story time or what? We have things to do, Nyambura. Okay, so after a while, he kept asking her, why are you not eating meat anymore, because like now he couldn't have his meals at home how he preferred to have them. And so it was disturbing him. But remember, he's an ordinary guy doing ordinary things. He thought he could compromise and eat meat outside while he's outside of the home, and then come back home and just continue to have the, I don't know, what are they having? Spinach, kimchi, and rice. Yeah, like they were basically limited to a plant-based diet, which he did not subscribe to. Soon after, the wife just completely stopped eating that much, and now she was looking so emaciated. She was already so small set, and now she's just become a little bit small, a lot more smaller, significantly smaller than she was. And now she's looking a bit ghastly. It's like, okay, girl, are they feeding you or not? So the husband has it to the end of his wits, and he's like, I'm gonna call your parents. So he calls the girl's parents, and he tells them that, hey, you need to talk to your girl because she's completely not eating. She's looking so weak, and she's refused to eat meat. And soon after, they have like a family get together where the girl, let's give her name, let's call her Jane. So Jane and Mike are married. Mike calls Jane's family to complain about how Jane is not eating. Jane's parents come over. Jane's sister, let's give her name, Maria. So Jane's sister Maria and her husband comes, and then Jane's brother and his wife also come. So basically Jane's whole family comes, and they're having dinner together. And while they're eating, there's like they're sat on the dinner table, and they're passing the meals to each other across the table and all of that. And Jane just says she doesn't want to eat meat. She doesn't want to eat meat. She just doesn't want to eat meat. So she's there having her little vegetables and her rice or something plant-based. And her dad has it to the end. He's like, enough. Like, what is wrong with you? You have to eat. You have to eat. And instead of like having a normal conversation with her and trying to find out how they could supplement her diet into like, I don't know, protein that's plant-based. You don't have to eat meat to gain weight. You know, if that was their biggest concern, they could have just had a conversation about what are the alternatives that she has apart from meat. But her dad was so abusive. He was so bad. Like, growing up, he beat Jane and her sister Maria to a pulp each time for absolutely no reason at all, just other than them existing. And that was a really difficult thing that Jane and Maria had endured their whole lives. So when Jane was refusing to eat this nyama, the dad got pissed. He got up. He asked his son, that's Jane's brother, to hold Jane, and he forced the meat into her mouth. I'm not gonna make a weird joke because that's also a really sad thing. But he literally like smacks her, he beats her because she's refusing to. She's like, you know how you can force a child to basically put some food in the mouth and the baby's refusing. He tried to do that with the nyama, with Jane, and Jane was just completely refusing. So it got super violent. But eventually he was able to literally like force the meat into her mouth, and Jane completely lost it. Remember, she was just a plain girl, not too talkative. She was just chilling. She was a very laid back girl, and there was literally nothing about her that was, I don't know, eccentric, eclectic, yes, sorry, kidogo vocabulary inani changanya, but there was nothing about her that was very extraordinary, yeah. And so when the meat got into her mouth, like as soon as it landed into her mouth, she let out like the most gut-wrenching. Like, it's like so, it's like a blood curdling. Yes, let's go with blood curdling scream that has ever been screamed. And she grabbed a knife, like a fruit knife that was on the table, and she just started to cut herself. And it was so, like, it was so bad. She just started to bleed. She completely had a meltdown because she was like, now, in my opinion, at the time, I was just like, it's just nyama. Why are you forcing her to eat meat when she's clearly said she doesn't want to eat it? And obviously, here I am thinking my own thoughts and being like, I don't think that was appropriate. And I wish that dad hadn't done all that. I wish Jane's dad didn't do all that. However, Maria now starts to beg the dad to just leave her alone, like, leave my sister alone. In, like, without even thinking about it, Maria's husband, let's give him a name, John shoots up, just picks up Jane and puts Jane into the car, like rushes her to hospital because, you remember, she cut herself up. But then when they get to hospital, she's having like a psychotic break. It's not enough. It's not, I don't know. It's just, she spirals. She even gets admitted to hospital and they had to like sedate her for a while. But then when she came to, she had to be like, when she came to, they had to put her on like a food watch, like to make sure she's eating. So Jane's mom was constantly in hospital making sure that she's eating, as well as Mike, was it Mike or Mark? Basically, that's one of those names. The husband to what was her name? My God, I've forgotten. What's her name for real? No jokes. Nyambe. Jane and Mike are married. Mike is in hospital just trying to make sure that Jane is eating. At this point, this has put such a strain on their marriage because Mike is struggling with not eating nyama in his house. And what's her name? Jane is also struggling with. It's okay. Jane is in hospital now. She's been like hospitalized, and they're trying to make sure that she eats. The mom needed to leave the hospital to go and freshen up a bit, so she left Mike to watch Jane. But Mike kind of fell asleep, and when he came to, it was because there was like some sort of crowd noise going on. So he's like, what the hell? And then when he gets up, the wife is not in the hospital bed anymore. So he goes outside kind of looking for her, but he's attracted to the crowd. Like, he wants to find out, okay, what's going on with the crowd? What's up with that? And he goes to check, and guess what he finds? He finds Jane in a hospital gown, but it's open and she's naked and she's like looking up to the sky and just feeling the sun. And when Mike was looking at her from that point, he was just it was such a crazy sight for him. He couldn't believe like what was going on. But then he moved past the crowd. He went to his wife and he was like, what's going on? Are you okay? And then she said, I just wanted to feel the sun. I just wanted to feel the sun against myself. I just wanted to feel the sun against my body. That's what she said. And she covers him up. He covers her up in the hospital gown and takes her back to the hospital room. But he's struggling with this relationship. Eventually, she gets discharged and they go home. And Jane still doesn't want to eat meat. Jane's sister Maria comes often to check up on her because remember, now she was having an eating disorder. Now it was getting to a point where it was becoming an eating disorder. She become so emaciated and she was just so tiny. Her sister was trying to take care of her, so Maria would come by often and be like, do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? She'd bring her fruits, which she loved fruits at the time. And basically doing what a sister would do for her sister at a time like that. But slowly, nobody was understanding Jane's point of view because she was bizarre. She was just very bizarre. Every time you'd ask her, so why do you wanna not eat meat anymore? She'd be like, I had a dream. And one time her husband asked her to explain what the dream was, and she said that she was being chased and there was just so much flesh and it was just a lot of nyama, and she just got disgusted. Like she once had a dream that someone cut her stomach open and was burrowing out, and it was like just more meat and more blood, and I don't know, she was just having these dreams and she was over the nyama. And then soon after, she stopped having sex with her husband, sorry. And when her husband asked her, so why do you not want to have sex with me anymore, she was like, quite to be honest with you, it's because you are flesh, you are nyama. So now everyone in her life is just like, bro, what are you saying, bruh? What is all this? And no one seems to understand where she's coming from. Soon after, he files for a divorce and he chose himself and he left. And I don't even know if I can blame him, because maybe the strain got too much on him and he just had to leave. He's like, nah, I need to go. You're driving me crazy. You're gonna drive me nuts. So at some point, she's living by herself. Jane is now living by herself. She's still having this phases where she just like undresses. Like one time her sister comes to visit her and she's like sat on a couch like this, and then she's naked and her legs are just spread apart, and she wants like the sun. She's like airing her lady parts to the sun because she felt like she wanted the sun. I'm not gonna lie, that sounded kind of nice. I don't know, where can I sign up for that? Is that a service that they offer? I'm joking. So is this story long? Are you bored? I don't know. Am I bored giving it? Should I give another story? Should I wait for next week? Should I do something else? Okay, I'm already halfway through. So Jane basically is just airing her lady parts to the sun, and the sister is like, oh my god, what are you doing? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to like be one with nature, be one with the sun. And at this point, it's just unbelievable to Maria what she's seeing. But she's like, okay, I guess this is your new personality. I don't know, what's this? Is this like an artistic side? Is this something you're looking to getting into, or what? What is this? What is all that? And so Maria leaves, but then when she goes back, she tells her husband, hey, John, I think this sister of mine, I just want to be close to her. I don't know if she could like move to me. And Maria tried to beg Mike not to divorce Jane, but he just wasn't having it. I think he just got into his end. So Maria was very concerned for her sister. And when she told John is her husband. John is Maria's husband, remember? The one who carried Jane on his back and took her to hospital. Yeah. So she tells John that she's very concerned for her sister's well-being, and she wonders how she could get him to she could get her to live closer to her. So now I'm gonna shift the story back to like from John's perspective. Okay, so John and Maria have been married a while. Maria is Jane's older sister. John and Maria have been married for a while, and they have a son together who's a bit grown. He's like 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere around there. And John is an artist, a weird artist. He's like a theater guy. He paints things. He's very artsy, but then his career never really took off. He wasn't like, I don't know, he wasn't like a big artist, So he did a lot of theater, so that means he also did a lot of film, and he also was very artistic in terms of like he could paint and draw and all of that kind of stuff. And he was coming from he was coming from his studio one time going home when he realized that he kind of has a crush on Jane. Like, since that day when she had that psychotic break. Was it a psychotic break or was she just reacting? But the cutting yourself part is a bit crazy. So since that moment, John has always found Jane a bit attractive. He was attracted to her. He was attracted to how frail she looked, which was such a red flag. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe all that. And so John realizes that he has this crush on his wife's sister. Messed up. That's so messed up. Oh my god. And soon after, he starts to kind of act on it, in terms of like, he'd go by Jane's house just to see how she's doing. And the first time he went to her house after that divorce happened, and John was very grateful that the divorce happened. He always kind of came from the perspective of he didn't deserve her. She's so artistic looking. Maybe the frailness was kind of looking like art to him. I don't know. But he just always thought that Mike didn't deserve Jane. So here we are with John and Maria. They're still married. They have this baby together. But John has started to act on his urges to be closer to Jane. But not sexually or anything like that. Just to be closer to her. And one time he goes to visit her at her house after the divorce, so she's living by herself. And when he walks in, he knocks and she didn't open, so he just twists the door open and gets in. And she's naked. She'd been on this naked spree since she just likes being naked since that day she became vegetarian. He went to the house and he was a bit startled, but he didn't look away. She actually didn't even jump or anything. She just went and wore the pants that were on the floor right there next to her. She dressed up and she was like, "Oh, hi, I didn't realize you were coming by." And he asks her how she's doing, and he's brought her a couple of fruits in a basket, and she's excited to share the fruits with him, but she's also just in her own world. She's not into it like that. And at some point, as their interactions continue to go by, Jane is invited to come and work in Maria's shop. Maria owns a shop, and John wants Jane to come and work in Maria's shop, but Jane is a bit reluctant about it, but she's thinking about it. She's actively looking for a job because she wants to live a normal life. She's just gone through a divorce. She's also having this, I don't know, artistic bouts. She's having all these bouts of artistic, I don't know, expression. So she just wants to kind of gel back into normal society, if I do say so myself. However, as the interactions progress, John offers to use Jane as a muse in one of his sets. And the set is a nude painting, not of her, not on something, but he wants her to be nude and he wants to paint flowers on her. You get what I mean? And well, she's just sat there. They were having coffee and she agreed. She's just like, yeah, sure, that would be nice. And this story ends up with her being painted and she has all these flowers all over her body. She's naked. And there's this other guy who John wanted this to be some form of artistic expression. So he wanted to film it, the flowers being drawn, and he wanted to draw two people. He wanted it to be a bit of a dance between two people. And so he asks his friend, another artist from his studio, to be his muse. But the guy gets a bit uncomfortable with how she's coming onto him, because now it's a dance between two nude people who've been drawn flowers on their bodies. And it looks like, I remember even them talking about the petals and the pistil and the stigma and all of that, and the and I forget, but I think that's the male member in a flower, I guess. Anyway, so they are basically dancing, but then this other muse gets a bit uncomfortable and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And he does get a boner, like he's getting into it, but he's like, no, I don't want to do this. Actually, this is a bit crazy. What is this? What am I doing? And in that moment, he just kind of leaves. So Jane is left there naked with flowers all over her body, and John is there and he tries to come onto her, and she shoves him off of her, and she's like, what are you doing? What's this? And then he said that he wanted to be involved in the dance, and she's like not having it. But he asks if he had flowers on his body drawn as well, would she let him, like, you know what I mean? Would she let him tap into the honey pots? Yes. Have sex. What am I even saying? Have sex. Yeah? I'm a grown adult. I'm old. Have sex. So John asks Jane to chill in the studio, and he goes and asks his other friend from the studio to literally paint flowers all over his body, and he gets flowers painted all over him, and he comes back to her house. That's what they were filming from. That's why he was filming the whole interaction from, and he finds her there, and he'd asked her not to like wash off the flowers of her body because he still needed to film, and she agreed. So she didn't wash her body. She didn't wash the flowers off her body. So John goes back, flowers on body, and he has sex with Jane. And he films it. Story's so messed up, bro. He films the whole interaction, but they're in her house, remember, where she lives by herself. And after that, they kind of like, he stops recording because the dance is over, I guess, and they both black out on the bed. The next morning, when he gets up to leave, he dresses up. Wait, no, he doesn't dress up. He just gets up. He's packing his stuff so he can leave, and he realizes that he's missing, let's call it a memory card. The memory card to his camera is missing. So he's looking around in the room, and then he decides it probably fell outside, which is highly unlikely because he's like, how did it get there? But then he figures, oh, maybe it's her. Maybe it's Jane who puts the memory card in another place around the house. As soon as he gets out, he finds Maria, his wife, sitting on the kitchen floor, crying. She's just crying. She's crying. She's watched the whole thing. Wow. On the list of things I don't think I can handle, that one right there, that goes on the list prominently there, top 3, 100% top 3. But Maria has watched this film of her husband and her sister getting it on while they're naked with all these flowers drawn all over their bodies, and she's like, have you completely like lost your mind? Like, are you insane? What John doesn't know, because he's like, oh my god, Maria, my girl, I'm sorry, it's not what it looks like. But nigga, I think it's exactly what it looks like. Okay, I think it's exactly what it looks like. But Maria has already called the mental hospital. And John doesn't know all this. So John is just there pleading his case. Jane is sleeping. She's deep asleep. And then she wakes up and she's still naked, remember? She goes to the living room and she just sees her sister and her brother-in-law. And she just says nothing. She goes onto the couch. She sits. She's completely naked. She just like lifts her legs and puts her lady parts out to the world to be... Not to the world, to the sun. She keeps saying this thing about the sun and how she just wants to be like, I don't know, like it's like she's replenishing or she's nourishing herself or something, which is so weird. Nobody in her life gets her anymore. But her sister has already called the mental hospital, and none of them know that. So by the time they get to the door, the mental hospital staff, that is, they're in an apartment. The balcony door is open. There's a balcony right outside. The main door is closed. So Maria opens the door, and it's this paramedic guys, and they come and they try to like capture John, but he tries to run. So he's trying to run, and he gets off into the balcony. He tries to jump. Mind you, they're like on the 7th floor. Oh, John. I would try to jump also if they caught me in a situation like that. That's a bit crazy. I'm not gonna lie. So he tries to jump, but now the paramedics get a hold of him. They tie him up, they chain him up, and then they take the girl as well. They take Jane also, and they all are taken to the mental hospital. And Maria, when she gets to talk to John, she's like, "You are normal. You are taking advantage of my sister who clearly has a mental illness. Are you okay? You are not okay. You are not fine. Like, to draw all these things on my sister, and then you both do this dance thing that you're calling a dance. I don't get it. And both of you need to be institutionalized." But she's not even mad at her sister. She's just so confused. She's like, "Oh my God." Now let me tell the story from the sister's perspective, okay? Now we're going to Maria's perspective. Maria and her sister were very close growing up. They were each other's best friends. But Jane was a bit younger than Maria. However, her dad was always so abusive. Like, the dad was just so abusive. He was such a rough guy. He would always beat them up for the most minor things, and he'd beat them up to like a pulp. So even growing up, Maria bore the burden of seeing Jane as her responsibility. So her whole life, Maria was just taking care of Jane, and it was just so, I remember like hearing stories, just so saddening, because who's taking care of you? You know, like, who's taking care of Maria? But Maria was just so upset at the fact that her husband would dare do something like that to her sister, because now it's coming from a place where she feels her sister is at a mental disadvantage, and this man has taken clear advantage of her, and she will not stand for it. However, I think that life deals you things that you don't always have to deal with, and they are so excruciating. But sometimes love overwhelms logic. Love often overwhelms logic. You can't explain it. It's love. It's love. She loves her sister. She cannot see her sister in the light that the husband would want her to see her through. She just can't see Jane as someone who would cause her harm intentionally. Also, she doesn't think that Jane should ever be in a situation where she's making decisions and that they are held in such seriousness, you know, because she feels like she's responsible for her younger sister. This is the plight of the older sibling. I'm so sorry if you're going through all this. I am sorry personally. Jane is institutionalized. John is institutionalized. He asks to meet his son a while after he's discharged, but he basically runs away and never to be seen again. He runs away for years until later is when he's calling her and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to see our son." And then she's like, "No." And he's like, "Okay." And he just goes. I think the shame just overwhelmed him and he had to leave. Never to be heard again. Never to be heard of again, even in his art, in nothing amounted. He amounted to nothingness, basically. That the story continues without him completely. Like, he's not there anymore. But Maria kept trying to see Jane after she got institutionalized. At some point, Jane also ran away into like the mountains, into a forest in the mountains. But they found her, like the mental institution found her after a while. However, Maria was already panicked. She's like, how could you lose her? How could you lose my sister? How do you lose a patient? Are you okay? So she was pissed about that, but then they found her soon after. However, Maria was just overwhelmed with guilt because she's like, oh my God, is she sick? Like, is my sister, is there something bigger than all of this that my sister is going through? She started blaming her dad from that moment where he forced the meat into her mouth. And it was just such a weird situation because Maria, her simple mind, her simple human mind couldn't understand how something so bizarre could come of something that they had gone through their whole lives. Like something so bizarre, like her sister trying to cut herself and going to the extreme or the extent of cutting herself up in front of them. She blamed her father. Maria was pissed. She's like, nah, you guys have always been so abusive. You've never stood for us. She even blamed her brother. You remember the brother who had a wife also when they were having a dinner? Yeah, the brother, she was also like, even you, honestly, you have been nothing but a pain in our lives. You have contributed absolutely nothing to our development, and I'm basically cutting you off. She cut off the family. She was over it. But now when she went to the mental institution, because they're trying to understand the patient and learn what's going on, it turns out Jane was just suffering from schizophrenia. And the schizophrenia had just come as a result of the abuse that she was facing at home, that she and her sister had faced at home. Oh my gosh, am I getting emotional talking about this? I am. I feel bad for them. Maria and Jane only had each other growing up. They only had each other. There was nothing else around them, about them, from them, of them. Nothing came of them. Nothing came from them. Nothing. They were just two punching bags for their father. However, their father was always inclined to hit Jane more. Jane is the younger one, and he was always inclined to hitting her so much harder and so much more, and it was so much more violent. So at some point, Jane just, as an adult, like she was just living her life, going through everything, and then she just cracked one day. The dreams, there was no way for anyone to predict that she was ever gonna have dreams. She just had dreams, and then she developed a mental illness from that. She got schizophrenic, and that's why she hated the meat. It got murderous. It was so bloody. Her dreams were so haunting. It was bad. It was really bad. So she had to stop eating meat. I think she took measures as far as her simple mind could understand to try and stop the weirdness that she was going through at the time. And when you're a schizophrenia patient, you don't know that you're a schizophrenia patient. You just, it's the people around you who perceive you that can tell there's something off about you. And Jane was in hospital this whole time, and that's when they made a diagnosis. The doctor made a diagnosis now that she was schizophrenic. However, the meat thing never stopped, and now it progressed to not wanting to eat anymore. Remember her obsession with plants, because she's the one who actually was like, can I not wash this off? When she got painted, she was like, how long can this last on my body before I completely need to like get rid of it? And he said, I don't know, you kind of have to wash it multiple times. But that was after they'd already painted her the first time. This painting happened for a very long period of time. Let's say through the period of a week, that's when the painting happened. So like at the beginning, when John was asking her to be his muse, she accepted. Well, she was still okay. She was probably in her okay phase. But then after getting the flowers on her body, she kind of got obsessed with them. She's like, oh my gosh. So later on, she started to feel like she's a plant. She wanted to be a tree. She's like, she wants to be a tree. And that's why she wanted to stand under the sun all the time naked, so she can nourish her body. In her simple mind at that time, that's what she was doing. She had no ill will, she had no ill intent, she had not conspired against anyone. These actions had come naturally as a result of a bigger problem that she also did not know about. It's just an unfortunate situation, and I empathize with anyone going through schizophrenia at the moment. However, Jane actually became anorexic. Now she wanted to be a plant. She's like, no, I must get my roots rooted into something. That's how I nourish myself. I'm not. And even the more people around her started telling her she's gonna die from not eating because she became anorexic, the happier she was. She's like, oh my god, I'm finally gonna be a tree. Trees don't talk. Trees don't. I'm gonna be a tree. And it was so sad. Like, it was so sad because Maria still has her son. Maria has her business that she has to run. Maria has her sister who's dying. She's literally begging her sister to eat, and her sister is just like, no, 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 no. Hadi, until her insides started to atrophy, like her digestive system started atrophying. Let me give an atrophy is muscle disuse for so long. Hadi, it becomes basically useless. It's like a spleen. We have a spleen, but what's the function of a spleen? Is it a spleen? Yeah, it's a spleen. Yeah, it's a spleen. So I think there's something that we human beings have that's an atrophy muscle or something. Anyway, so her insides began to atrophy. So basically, muscle disuse for so long that it basically becomes useless. Like there's no use for it. So her digestive system was atrophying. She could no longer eat. She could no longer swallow. Even the doctors had tried to like tube feed her, but she could die anytime. And just realizing this story from each perspective has been it was just such an interesting thing to perceive, because at first I was just like, what the hell, what a crazy story, oh my god, what is happening, what is all this? But then you realize that sometimes the human mind is just that. It's just that. It's just that. You are as far as your experiences allow you to be. You are as much as your you are as much as your human experiences allow you to be. Wow. That's such a profound sentence. What the fuck? Oh my god. Run me my coins. Run me my coins. I'm here spitting like Shakespeare. Can you sit back down? There's a new sheriff in town. Anyway, that's my little story about schizophrenia. Do let me know your experience with mental illness that wasn't realized to be mental illness until way after, and after someone else had already suffered so much trying to understand what it is. I feel so bad for elder sisters. Like, I feel bad for elder sisters who are in situations where they have to constantly ignore their own needs for the sake of those that they love. That must be so excruciating, and I'm so sorry. Well, I think I've come to the end of this story. That was actually the book that my book club and I were reading. My book club was reading last month. It's called The Vegetarian. It's Asian. It's by Han Kang. You can find it on Kindle. You can find it on Kindle. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next week. I'll see you next Wednesday. And I hope you enjoyed my very long story. But I hope you've learned something. Not everything is as it appears to be. Bye.